It's hard to believe that we're already halfway through 2023 and we've still got some great books that are on the horizon, but more importantly, DC seems to be printing omnibuses again. Woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka The Mad Dog, and we're back with another video. Now coming in at 15th place, I've got Black Cat by Jed MacKay. Black Cat seems to often be that character that writers only want to use when they need to bring somebody in that Peter can flirt with so that he can have another argument with Mary Jane. But she's so much more than that, and having a book that follows it, especially for an extended period of time like this, isn't just going to be some kind of 6-issue miniseries, makes me really excited to see what Jed MacKay can do with Felicia. Besides some of the plot points of that opening arc, I'm going into this completely blind, and that's exactly the way that I want it to be. I haven't even really heard people say if this is good or bad, and at this point I think that might be a spoiler. I don't know if it's just me who thinks like this, but sometimes if I know I'm supposed to enjoy a book before I go into it, I'm just worried that that's going to ruin the experience. But either way, I'm glad this is getting the omnibus treatment, and also that Marvel's really quick at pumping out omnibuses of modern series, because of the fact it feels like I don't know everything about this before I start reading it, which is often the case with some of those older books. Number 14, I'm going with Spider-Man by Chip Zdarsky. And yeah, I know a lot of people are excited for this Chip Zdarsky omnibus. I have already read Spider-Man Life Stories, so I know that I like the quality of writing before going into this. But admittedly, it's a similar story to Black Cat, and I promise I'm not just going to say this for every pick on this list, but besides that, I haven't read much of this run. I know it's a collection of a few different stories, and those often tend to be the omnibuses that I really enjoy. It seems like Zdarsky's not really going to be too bogged down with the continuity or anything like that, which is probably a blessing in disguise when it comes to Spider-Man. Yep, at the moment, it doesn't look like it's a good time to be a fan of 616 Peter. But from what I've read of Chip Zdarsky so far, with titles like Always an Invader and some of the indie stuff that he did early on, he is able to balance serious storytelling but also with a really good comedic flair. So with a character like Spider-Man, where it always seems like he's making jokes whilst all of his family and friends are dying around him, I really think that this might be the perfect opportunity for Zdarsky. And I've heard a lot of good reviews about this, so I'm not going into it as blind as I am with Black Cat, but I'm still hoping that there's a few surprises along the way and that I really enjoy this title. And also, spoiler warning for when I do this video in 2024, Zdarsky's Daredevil run is probably going to be top of the list. Number 13, I'm going with Thunderbolts Uncaged. Now this to me has a lot of nostalgia that I'm bringing with it, because when I was first visiting comic shops, the Luke Cage issues of Thunderbolts were always on discount. And then also when we're picking up the Dark Avengers at the same time, and this pretty much crossing over with it, I was blown away, and I am so excited to revisit this. Especially because recently I did a lot of research for the Thunderbolts when I did a video just talking about who they are, and also in the past I've done a video talking about who the Dark Avengers are. If you wanted key reading material, this omnibus would pretty much be that. And even though I've already been collecting all the Thunderbolts omnibus, I'm just really glad that this has got a subtitle rather than being a volume 4. But this just really makes me hopeful that they're going to do more books from this era, because that was when I was first getting into this medium. This in a way is my childhood for me, and I know I haven't read the first half of it, so I'm really excited for that. Number 12, I'm going with Ultimate X-Men Volume 2. Yeah, no, I'm already prepared for all the comments that are just telling me that the Ultimate Universe is awful, but again, this is my childhood. I know that Ultimate X-Men pretty much took a nosedive as soon as Mark Millar left the title, but I am still gonna pick this up. Because let's be honest, nostalgia has a massive influence over our wallets. And this is no exception, but I'm fully ready to go back and revisit this and see everything about it, remind myself what I enjoyed when I was growing up, take off the glasses a little bit and see just how bad it might be now. But more than anything, I'll just be happy that Marvel's still printing omnibuses for the time when I was first getting into this hobby. And I know I'm really gonna get some hate for this, but where's the Ultimate Fantastic Four omnibus? Number 11, I'm going with The Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer Volume 2. Yeah, I know this is another controversial one, it's also another Spider-Man book. Maybe we should have a drinking game for every time he appears on this list. But part of the controversy and backlash towards this run is the reason why I'm excited to read it. I got Volume 1 the other month from Organic Price Books because I know they'd already announced this follow-up, so I knew that I'd have the full thing. It wasn't going to be like the Bendis Guardians of the Galaxy, because let's be honest, that Volume 2 doesn't look like it's ever happening. And in all honesty, it seems like people hate whatever Spider-Man run's coming out at the time, and some of those ones that have had massive backlash, I've still kind of enjoyed. Yeah, that might make me not a real fan, but who cares at this point? And having a run that goes on for nearly 100 issues that was all done by the same writer just really intrigues me. They have the time to plot out exactly what they want to do, and with such a high-tier character like Spider-Man, I want to see what risks they take. I don't have to worry about the current continuity because it's already moved past this, so I just get to enjoy this for what it is. And if you did want to pick up this book or any of the others, why not get them for a little bit cheaper? With the discount discount codes that we've got with the channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. They've got great packaging, fast shipping, and amazing customer services, and if you use code WOOFWOOF, you'll get $2 off your order. And if you're ordering 3 or more books and you want them to be delivered together, make sure you use code WOOFWOOF, ship it together for 5% off your entire order. Don't worry, you can just copy and paste them from the description down below, and you can use these codes as many times as you like. Number 10, I'm going with Captain Marvel by Peter David. Now this is pretty much the very definition of a whammy boy, but at the same time, Peter David is one of those creators that's just never really let me down. But still, I've been working on another video recently, and I've actually learned a little bit more about the backstory of Captain Marvel, and the fact that Peter David had a bet with 2 other writers to see which title would sell the most, and then this title sold so well that it continued for years after that bet was finished. As well, this seems to be one of those hidden gems from the late 90s after a lot of people had already dipped out of comics, and I don't think I've ever read a specific Captain Marvel title before, so it's a creator that I really enjoy, a time period where I feel like there's a lot of books that go overlooked, and a character that I'm really excited to learn a bit more about. So for me, that seems like a recipe for success, so of course it's going to get a place on this list. But being honest, I think I'm definitely going to get the Alex Ross cover. Number 9, I'm going with Star Wars The New Republic Volume 2. Yep, of course this was going to make it onto my list. The only reason why I brought Volume 1 is so that I could pick the sequel up, because I am dying to read the Dark Empire trilogy, and to have it in one hardcover, of course I'm going to have to buy this. And I know Dark Horse did print a hardcover, but that is massively out of print, so I'm more happy with this option. And as well, I've heard nothing but good things about the Thrawn trilogy over the years, so to have that included in here as well, yeah, just take my money. But considering some of the powerhouse titles that we've already had from the Star Wars comics over the years, this still seems to be the one that people rave about the most. And at the same time, I'm going into both of these story arcs a little bit blind, but the hype of this alone is enough to make it on my list. Number 8, and get your drinks at the ready because I'm going with Spider-Man Brand New Day Volume 1. I have been begging for this book for years. Even though there's been very vocal detractors about what Dan Slott did with his time with Peter Parker, I am still fully ready to buy this book. I hope they continue and do the rest because we need a Volume 2. Even though it wasn't all written by Dan Slott, we need the gauntlet as well. I want Worldwide. I want everything that goes up until the time he left this title. And you know what? Yeah, that is a good couple of books that you'd have to print, but at the same time I'm glad that they're starting. And also doing a bit from the middle as well, but we'll get into that in a moment. Brand New Day for me was my introduction to Spider-Man in the main 616 universe. Yeah, it's definitely got its highs, it's definitely got its lows. I also think there's some parts of this that I haven't read yet, but I'm hoping in a couple of years I can look at my collection and everything that Dan Slott did with this character will be on my shelf in omnibus format. Number 7, we've got the first DC book because it's Detective Comics by Peter J. Tomasi. It's almost instinct to follow that up with "and Patrick Gleason," but it doesn't seem to be the case with this one. I did not have a clue that they were going to be announcing this. It wasn't something that made it onto any of my most wanted lists, but then as soon as I saw the solicitation, I knew I needed this. Peter J. Tomasi is another one of those creators that's just never really let me down. And from what I know, this immediately follows on from James Tynion, and that was a book that I loved. So admittedly, there is big shoes to fill, but I'm excited to see what it does continue on from that run and what it changes up. And also, it's just a modern Batman book. It does seem like this got completely overshadowed by Tom King, which makes me more excited for this because what I've noticed is that if a current run on a big superhero like Batman or Spider-Man is bad, then you will definitely hear about it. So the fact that I haven't heard anything about Tomasi's time on Detective Comics makes me think that this could possibly be a hidden gem. As well, I did have to point out that this is the first DC book on the list, and it does seem like they're going for more quality over quantity. So the fact that they decided to print this over some of those titles that have probably been more in demand just makes me even more excited for this, and I'm kind of glad that I'm going into this blind. Number 6, and it might be the first reprint on this list, but it's Secret Warriors by Jonathan Hickman. Now, I had the first printing of this, but I did have to sell it because times got difficult, and it has been a good number of years since I read this, so I was really excited when I heard this got announced. As well, I am currently in the middle of a Hickman readathon that I was going through this year, and I probably should have started with Secret Warriors, but for some reason I went for Fantastic Four, and I had a really good time with it. I am currently reading his Avengers at the moment, and I'm also going into Secret Wars, but I did remember really enjoying this when I first read it, and I hope I get that same experience this time. But it is just great that I'm finally able to correct that mistake that I made by selling this in the first place. And also, I just always love these covert spy type stories that they've got going on. I really hope eventually we get a Secret Avengers omnibus, because I feel like everybody should get a bit of the spotlight. It's like how if you're in the EU, you should definitely check out Comics Bugle. They've got free shipping within Europe, free gifts with every order, and if you use code woof woof, you'll get $3 off books that aren't already discounted or damaged. So if you're in Europe and you've been begging for the equivalent of organic price books, Comics Bugle is the one for you. Number 5, we've got another whammy boy because it's the Green Lantern Corps by Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. Yeah, if you watch me double dip a skip that I did a few weeks ago on this book, it might sound like I'm not hyped for this, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Forget the missing issues, the books it already overlaps with, and the fact that we don't really know what a volume 2 might look like. And that still doesn't matter too much to me because I've been waiting years for this book. It does often get overshadowed for Geoff Johns' run on Green Lantern, which I don't think is fair because this is always trying to be its own thing. It feels more like a buddy cop movie, but at the same time it still respects what's going on within the DC universe. I think this is a phenomenal book. I'm really excited this is coming out, but in all honesty, do I have to clean out like an entire cube on a calyx for this? Because from what I'm hearing, this sounds like it might be the biggest book that DC's ever printed. But whether they would have split this in half or even bring it out as one 5,000 page epic, I probably still would have brought it for this title. And also because I look at the DC side of my collection and there's just not a lot of Kilowog in it. Number 4, in a shock that should come to nobody, it's Batman TMNT. I was heartbroken when this was first cancelled and I never thought that I was going to get over it, but then fortunately it got resolicited. And something in the back of my head is still telling me to not get too excited because you've been disappointed before. I've only read the first crossover between these two and I just love that it stays authentic to both of these characters. On the surface it sounds like it'd just be a gimmicky cash grab, but there's a lot of heart that goes into this and it pulls enough from both universes so that it truly feels like a crossover between the two. I am really hoping that the follow-ups are just as good as the first, but either way I am so excited that this is finally getting printed. Number 3, in pretty much any other year this would have been a strong contender for number 1, but it's a Superior Spider-Man omnibus. But I recently read pretty much everything that's in this first volume and I loved this. It was one of the best Spider-Man experiences that I've had in a long time. It's got a bit of a dumb concept, but it really works with it, and over the course of this story you feel like you really go on an adventure. I'm not going to get too much into the specifics in case you don't know what goes on here, but I would recommend checking out my review, and I've already made it clear that I'm a big fan of Dan Slott's time with the Wall Crawler, but I do think that this was the peak of that. So the fact that this is coming out in its own omnibus I think is great because it makes it more accessible to people who don't want to read his full 10-year run. And honestly, when this gets delivered, even though I only read it a few months ago, I could probably jump straight into this and still have a great time. Number 2, a book that I know for a moment we were all worried might never come, but it's Thor by Jason Aaron Volume 2. Yep, this is definitely going to be one that I pre-ordered. I remember how Volume 1 pretty much just instantly disappeared, and I'm not willing to risk it because this is pretty much the seminal Thor run for this generation. But I am planning on doing a separate video because I know there is some double dipping with the War of the Realms omnibus. But either way, I just love how we're going to have the entirety of Jason Aaron's time on this character in 2 omnibuses. I've deliberately not jumped back into Volume 1 because I wanted to wait till this got released. I know a lot of people say it doesn't end on as much as a high as it started with, but either way, I'm here for it. If it's 10% as entertaining as I found the first part, then I'm still gonna have a good time. But still, this was one of those books that I just knew I couldn't miss out on, and I'm just so excited that this is finally going to be printed. Now, before we jump into my number 1 pick, I'm just going to go through some honourable mentions, and it's definitely something that deserves mentioning, but it's not honourable, but that is the Mad Dog Comics website. Yep, we finally released some merch, and I'm so excited that you guys can finally get your hands on it, so make sure you can become an official member of the Dog Pound and visit maddogcomics.com. But the first omnibus that I want to mention is the Question by Dennis O'Neil Volume 2. But again, this does seem to be one of those underrated gems that has been forgotten about over the years, so I'm really excited to jump into this. But we needed the second volume to finish it out, and admittedly I'm surprised that we're getting this before we're getting a Flash by Mark Waid Volume 2, but either way, I'll take what I can get. Another one is X-Men 2099. I'm surprised this got announced, but at the same time, I'm here for it. I know nothing about this title, but I love the Spider-Man book enough to give this a chance, because admittedly, I just really love futuristic stories, and put the X-Men in with that, and I'm probably gonna buy it. Another one's Batman and Robin Eternal. I have read and enjoyed Batman Eternal, but I pretty much forgot that this spin-off existed. Hopefully it's another one of those sleeper hits that just really catches me by surprise, but either way, I'm glad that this is finally getting printed. I'm also gonna throw in Ghost Spider here. Now, I love the Spider-Gwen omnibus. I still haven't finished the ending of it, but still, I'm pretty much excited for anything that comes out for this character. It was wacky, goofy, but at the same time, there was a lot of emotion going on, and I'm hoping that this follows in the same footsteps, but admittedly, I've heard nothing about this. this. I'm also going to throw in Marvel's Zomnibus and Zomnibus Returns. That first volume in particular, I'm really excited that this is getting a reprint because it's Robert Kirkman, and I'm just surprised how much of an impact this had on the comics industry. But for anybody else who has OCD like me, do you put this in the M section of your collection for Marvel's Zomnibus, or do you put it in the Z section for Zomnibus? Honestly, anybody who can answer that question will be really helping me. Bit of a controversial one, but I'm also going to throw in the Super Sons Ultra Expanded Super Duper Redux Forever Edition, or whatever it's called. And the reason why this is only an honorable mention is because I wouldn't be surprised if DC reprint this. Like, it's just getting silly now. And I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen and on the front cover they go, no, seriously, this is the last one. And the last honourable mention, and one that I'm sure is going to get dislikes from a few people, but it's the Immortal Hulk omnibus. Now, for the 3 people who can't seem to understand this, not everybody's going to like the same thing. When I did review the Immortal Hulk, I absolutely loved the first 20 issues, but then I just felt like it didn't really do much more. But you know, I also recognise that the mood that I'm in when I read a book can sometimes impact the experience. And since it seems like I'm the only person on the planet who didn't absolutely love every second of this book, I am kind of willing to pick this up again so that maybe a couple years from now I can revisit it. So yeah, I know some people who might not have watched that review might have expected this to be my number 1, but you know, everybody's reading experience is different, and I might enjoy this more on a second reading. And you know, if you do have a different experience to me, just remember, it's not worth sending death threats to me family. They're just comics. Speaking of which, my number 1 pick might come as a surprise to absolutely nobody who's watched this channel before, because it's the Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 3. I swear this is like the 4th time in a row the Ultimate Spider-Man has been number 1, and I absolutely regret nothing. This was the first comic that I ever read, and I'm not even trying to justify this as just a nostalgia buy, because this book still holds up to date. It's one of the most entertaining long runs of Spider-Man that you can find in this medium, and I just love the fact that we are getting a volume 3 with this. I think we're pretty much over the halfway mark now. Last time I went back to this series, I had to do it through the trade paperbacks, so I cannot wait until the day when I've got all of these omnibuses. I've spoke about this series countless times before. I've even done a video talking about why I think it's just the best, so of course it had to make it as my number 1 pick. But in the comment section below, let me know what the books are that you're looking forward to the most, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. I needed one where I just got to sit down and talk about books that I'm excited for, but until next time, just make sure that you stay safe and stay mad, all you dogs. Woof woof. See you at the next video.